Welcome to Nick's Scary Stories. Tonight, we're heading into Bakersfield, California, where old farmhouses and quiet suburban blocks hide stories that were never meant to be told. These 5 terrifying encounters come straight from locals, each one darker than the last. So turn the lights down low, check the corners of the room, and don't look too long at that hallway, because our first story? It starts with a mirror that reflected more than just a face. The other side of the mirror. Bakersfield, California, 2020. You ever stare into a mirror and feel like it's staring back? I don't mean just seeing your reflection. I mean really staring, long enough that your eyes feel strange, like they're not yours anymore. That's how it started for Brielle Vasquez, a second-grade teacher who moved into a rental duplex on 22nd Street in Bakersfield. She thought it was the perfect place. Cozy, affordable, and 5 minutes from the school where she worked. But after just 2 weeks, something in the house began staring back. At first, it was just the feeling. That quiet little paranoia when you brush your teeth or walk past your own reflection too fast. She didn't think much of it. The mirror in the bedroom was antique, maybe 100 years old, left behind by the last tenant. Brielle even liked it. The frame was heavy oak, hand-carved, with a strange swirling pattern etched into the sides. Her landlord said it came with the house. Old Bakersfield charm, he'd called it. But charm has a way of rotting into something else. The first real sign came on a Wednesday night. Brielle was grading papers on the bed when she looked up and saw her reflection blink. Except she hadn't blinked. Her own eyes were wide open, but the reflection had closed its eyes. Just for a second. She stared at it, heart thumping, her brain trying to rationalize it. Fatigue. Light tricks. Her glasses slipping. She looked down, rubbed her eyes, looked back up. Nothing. Just her again. Looking tired. She told herself it was stress. The new school year had been rough, and with everything happening in the world, who wasn't frayed around the edges? But something had shifted. The air in the bedroom felt thick, like the mirror was breathing. The next night it got worse. She was getting ready for bed, brushing her hair in front of the mirror. Same old routine. She'd count her strokes like her mom used to, 25 each side. When she reached 12 on the right, she stopped. In the reflection, her hand didn't stop. Kept brushing. Slowly. Deliberately. Her real hand was frozen in place, but in the mirror, it moved. Brielle dropped the brush and stumbled back, her breath catching in her throat. She stared into the mirror, waiting for the trick to repeat. But again it was gone. Her own face, pale and confused, stared back. She didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw herself blinking from the other side of the glass. By Friday, her students were asking if she was okay. She laughed it off. Said she wasn't sleeping. Which was true. What she didn't say was that she'd started keeping a towel draped over the mirror at night. Just in case. What kind of just in case? She couldn't explain. Not to them, not even to herself. But mirrors have long memories. That night, she woke up at 2:13 a.m. The towel had fallen. She sat up slowly, the kind of slow you only move when you're afraid that speed will draw something's attention. The moonlight came in sideways through the blinds, and in the dim light, she could see the mirror was uncovered again. Her reflection stared back. Except, it wasn't her. The woman in the mirror was smiling. Brielle wasn't. Her heart pounded. She slid off the bed and crept toward the mirror. 1 step, then 2. Her reflection matched her movements, but too smoothly, too perfectly, like it wasn't reacting so much as predicting. The smile on the other side widened. Then it moved its hand. Slowly. Until it pressed its fingers against the inside of the glass. Brielle stopped walking. Her arms were at her sides. Her reflection's hand remained raised, palm flat against the mirror, right where hers would have touched it. Except, it wasn't her hand. The nails were too long, the skin too gray, and the smile? It spread across the face like a rip in paper. Then the reflection mouthed something. Brielle couldn't hear it, couldn't even lip read it. Just 2 slow words, then it pointed. Down. To the bottom of the mirror. That's when Brielle noticed something she hadn't seen before. At the base of the mirror, near the edge of the frame, there was a crack. Tiny, spider webbing out from a point that hadn't been there yesterday. She dropped to her knees and looked closer. From that angle, the mirror's surface rippled, like the surface of dark water. Something was leaking through. Behind her, the room had gone completely silent. No clock ticks. No wind. Just the faintest click click click, like fingernails tapping from inside the glass. She ran. Grabbed her car keys, left the lights on, and drove to her sister's place across town. Slept on the couch with the TV blaring all night. When her sister asked what happened, Brielle lied. Weird noise. thought someone broke in. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something had gotten out. The next morning, she returned with her sister to get a few things. The bedroom mirror was uncovered again. The towel? Folded neatly on the floor. The reflection? Was already smiling. Brielle didn't step back inside the bedroom. She stood frozen at the threshold, her sister Jenna behind her, confused by her sudden stop. But Brielle saw it immediately, felt it actually. The mirror was uncovered again. And the reflection was already waiting. Jenna leaned in over her shoulder. "Are you okay?" Brielle's mouth was dry. "Don't go in there." Jenna gave her a look, part concerned, part amused. "It's your bedroom." Brielle whispered, "That thing isn't me." Jenna didn't laugh. Not when she saw the way Brielle was trembling. Instead, she stepped past her sister and walked straight up to the mirror. "It's just a mirror, Brie." She ran her fingers along the edge. "Probably just one of those old warped ones." Then she paused. Her eyes narrowed. "What?" Brielle asked. "There's something under it." Jenna reached down and touched the floor. A cold patch. Not just cool from tile or shade. It was like something frozen had been dragged across the hardwood. Jenna followed the trail with her hand until her fingers touched the baseboard. She looked back up and caught her own reflection, except it didn't match. She froze. Behind her, Brielle said, "It's doing it again." Jenna stared into her own face, but the reflection was breathing. Slow, deep breaths, mouth slightly parted. The real Jenna wasn't moving at all, not even blinking. But her mirrored self? It tilted its head, slowly. Then it whispered something. Brielle yanked Jenna backward, dragging her away from the glass. The mirror fogged. Neither woman had exhaled. They didn't speak again until they were back in the car, doors locked, parked 2 blocks away. "I told you," Brielle said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Something lives in there." Jenna didn't argue. That scared Brielle more than if she had. That afternoon, Brielle called the landlord. Told him she was breaking the lease. Told him she'd pay whatever penalty it took. She didn't want to fight, just to leave. But the landlord paused. Then said something she didn't expect. "You're not the first." That was all he said. Refused to elaborate. Just told her to leave the key under the mat and text him when she was gone. She and Jenna packed up the next day. As they loaded the last box into the trunk, Brielle looked up at the window of the bedroom. Just one final glance. The curtain moved. Nothing dramatic. Just a gentle sway, as if someone had brushed past it from the inside. She turned away, climbed into the car, and never looked back. But the story didn't end there. 2 months later, Jenna called her late at night. "You're not gonna believe this," she said. "I drove by your old place today." Brielle felt her skin crawl. "Why?" "I was in the area." "I don't know, I guess I wanted to see it." "And?" "There's someone else living there already." "But, the mirror." "Brie, it's still there. I saw it through the window. And there was a little girl. She was waving." Brielle sat up in bed. "Waving how?" "Not to me. At the mirror." Silence. Then Jenna said, "I pulled over and waited. Just watching. It was like she was talking to it. I couldn't see her face clearly, but she was laughing. Like it was a game." Brielle's heart sank. She remembered the smile on the reflection. The way it had moved on its own. The way it had looked eager. "Promise me something," she said. "Don't go back." Jenna didn't answer right away. "I won't." But she did. 2 weeks later, on a rainy Thursday, Jenna texted a photo to Brielle. It was taken from the street, the house, the mirror, and in the window the girl again. Only this time she wasn't waving. She was staring, and someone else was behind her. A shadow, thin, tall, pressed against the glass. Brielle stared at the photo for a long time. Her stomach churned. She zoomed in, but the resolution blurred. The longer she looked, the more convinced she became that the shadow wasn't standing behind the girl. It was reaching out from inside the mirror. That night, Brielle dreamed of her old bedroom. Except it wasn't empty. She was standing in front of the mirror again, unable to move. Her own reflection tilted its head. Then it spoke. "We don't live in the mirror. You do." She woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. She never told anyone that part. And she never looked into a mirror again without feeling watched. Story 2. The Thing in the Trailer Park. Location, Easton Avenue, South Fresno, 2013. You ever get the feeling that something's watching you? Not when you're walking down a dark street or lost in the woods. No, I mean in your own home. Your safe space. That feeling like there's a second set of lungs breathing the same air, just out of sight. I felt it. For weeks. And I swear to you, I wasn't imagining it. Back in 2013, I moved into a trailer on the south edge of Fresno, near Easton Avenue. It wasn't much, just 2 rooms, paper-thin walls, and a busted porch light. But rent was cheap, and after my divorce, it was all I could afford. I figured I'd be there 6 months tops, just until I got back on my feet. That trailer had a weird layout. The front door opened into the kitchen, then a short hallway ran down the middle, bathroom to the left, bedroom at the very end. It always felt darker in the back, even when all the lights were on. The air just sat heavier. And there was this smell, faint but noticeable, like rust and water left standing too long in a metal bowl. I cleaned every surface. Still there. But the first time I really noticed something was wrong was the night I fell asleep on the couch. I woke up around 2 a.m. because the hallway light flicked on. I hadn't left it on. The bulb buzzed softly, that flickering kind of light that gives you a headache if you stare too long. I sat up and listened. Nothing. But it felt wrong. Like the air shifted. Then came the sound. Soft. Delicate. Like bare feet walking on old vinyl floors. One step. Pause. Another. The kind of sound you might miss if the room wasn't dead silent. I stood slowly, heart thudding, and peered down the hall. Nothing there. The light flickered again. Then off. Then on. I told myself it was a bad switch. That I was tired. That maybe I'd bumped something in my sleep. But I locked the bedroom door that night, even though I was sleeping in the living room. The next few nights it got weirder. I'd find my bedroom closet open in the morning. And I don't mean cracked, I mean wide open. I hadn't even been in there. My shaving kit disappeared from the bathroom one day, only to reappear under the sink 3 days later. The worst part? The mirror. I had this little square mirror on the wall across from the bathroom. Cheap plastic frame. But one morning I looked at it and saw fog. Like someone had breathed on it. The trailer was ice cold. I wiped it clean and walked away. But a minute later I looked again, and there it was. A small handprint. Just one. Pressed flat against the glass. I don't have kids. I don't have guests. That night, I brought out an old baby monitor I'd kept from when my daughter was little. I set it up in the hallway just outside the bedroom door and left the receiver next to me on the couch. At 3:09 a.m. it turned on by itself. White noise, then static, then breathing. Shallow. Raspy. Like someone with fluid in their lungs. Then a voice. Not loud. Not even clear. But it said my name. Danny. That was enough for me. I packed a bag and stayed at a Motel 6 off the highway for a few nights. Slept like a rock. No noise. No weird smells. But on the third night, I came back during the day to grab more clothes. And the front door was wide open. Inside, every cabinet had been emptied. All the drawers dumped. My mattress flipped, sheets ripped, food spilled across the floor. But nothing was stolen. Except the baby monitor. I called the sheriff. They didn't find signs of forced entry. Said maybe I forgot to lock up. But I know I locked that door. Deadbolt and all. I slept in my car the next 2 nights. Then I made the mistake of asking around the park. An older man, Bob, who'd been living there for 20 years, pulled me aside and said, "You're in number 48, right?" I nodded. He said, "You know no one's lasted more than a year in that one? Before you there was a lady. Real sweet. She used to leave food out by the vent in the hallway." "What for?" I asked. He looked dead serious. "She said it helped keep it calm." "What's it?" He didn't answer. Just walked away. That night, I sat in my car with the windows cracked, parked across from the trailer. Around 2:30 a.m., the hallway light turned on. And standing in the window, barely visible through the curtain, was a shape. Tall. Thin. Like a shadow that had learned how to stand up. It didn't move. Just watched. And then the baby monitor clicked on from the passenger seat. "Danny," it said again. I left Fresno the next morning. But I never told anyone this last part. A week later, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. All it said in a broken, whispery voice was, "Why'd you leave the door open?" The Mirror Apartment. Location, downtown Fresno, California, 2017. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like your reflection was just a split second behind? Not delayed like a bad camera. I mean deliberately late, as if it was trying to trick you into thinking it was you. That happened to me. In 2017, I rented a studio apartment downtown on Fulton Street, just a couple blocks from the historic Warnes Theater. I just started a new job managing events for a hotel, so I didn't care that the place was tiny. It had character, vintage tile, crown molding, a clawfoot tub, and these beautiful old mirrors built into the closet doors. The landlord said the building was from 1910. I was sold. The first few days were uneventful, except the mirror. It just didn't feel right. It wasn't the way it looked. It was clean and clear, no cracks. It was the way I felt when I stood in front of it, like I was interrupting something, like something inside was startled by me being there. On the third night, I woke up around 3 a.m. to use the bathroom. The hallway was dark, but I swear the mirror caught a light, just for a second, like something moved inside it. I stopped and stared. Nothing. But when I came back from the bathroom, I walked past again, and this time my reflection didn't follow. I was mid-step, but the mirror showed me standing still. Then it caught up, like it blinked and snapped back into place. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I called the landlord, asked if anyone else had mentioned anything odd about the mirrors. He laughed it off. Old building, old glass. Plays tricks on your eyes. Maybe. But it wasn't just my eyes. A few nights later, I was brushing my teeth when I noticed something strange. In the mirror above the sink, which sat opposite the closet mirrors, I could see a glimpse of the hallway mirror's edge. Just a sliver. And in that sliver, I saw someone standing behind me. I whipped around, nothing. Turned back, the sliver showed me again standing there. Only this time, my reflection was smiling. I wasn't. I stepped back from the sink and slowly walked toward the closet mirror. As I got closer, the air got colder. And not like bad insulation, this was a pressure. Like being watched from inside a refrigerator. When I stood in front of it, nothing was wrong. Just me. But then I did something stupid. I reached out and touched the glass. At first it was just cold. Then it pushed back. Not hard, but enough that I felt it. Like there was a second finger, mirroring mine. On the other side, I yanked my hand away and backed up fast. I must have tripped because I landed on the bed and knocked over the lamp. It shattered. The light bulb popped. For a split second, the room went black. And in that instant, I heard it. A whisper. Coming from the mirror. Not words, just the sound of breath. Like someone leaning in too close about to speak, but deciding not to. I slept with the mirror covered after that. Used an old bedsheet taped around the frame. It didn't help. Because now whatever was inside was angry. That next week, the faucet in the bathroom turned on by itself. Once I came home to find every cabinet in the kitchen open. I'd hear tapping, 3 quick knocks, on the walls, always from the mirror side of the apartment. Then came the final night. I had fallen asleep watching a movie on my laptop. Around 2:30 a.m., I woke up to a sound I can't forget. A laugh. From inside the apartment. Not loud. Not playful. It was my voice. But not me. I jumped up and looked around. Everything was quiet. Then I noticed it. The sheet over the mirror was on the floor. And in the mirror, my reflection was sitting on the bed. Back to me. But I wasn't. I was standing in the corner. I stepped forward. The reflection didn't move. I stepped again. Nothing. Then, just as I was about to touch the glass, it turned and smiled. It was me. But not. Its eyes were all wrong. Too wide, too dark, too aware. And it mouthed something. I couldn't hear it. So I whispered, "What do you want?" It mouthed again. This time I understood. "Let me out." That was it. I packed a duffel and left the building before sunrise. The next day, I filed a request to break the lease. When the landlord asked why, I just said, "Check the mirror." Story 4. The Man in the Floorboards. Location, West Fresno, California, 2006. Some people believe that spirits linger in places where pain was never resolved. Others say houses absorb trauma like a sponge. But in West Fresno, there's a house that does more than remember, it whispers it back. This story was shared with us by a man named Elijah, who, back in 2006, rented a duplex with his cousin near Olive Avenue. It was an older building, faded paint, creaky steps, but the rent was cheap and they were both in their early 20s, working construction and trying to save up. "I thought it was a blessing," Elijah told us, "but it turned out to be a curse. And it started with the floorboards. The house had this long hallway with original wood flooring. The boards were warped, water damaged in places, but oddly hollow sounding when you stepped near the middle. The landlord said it was just poor subflooring, promised to fix it, never did. One night, around midnight, Elijah was up watching TV when he heard something strange. A knock. From underneath the floor. Just once, dull and heavy. He muted the TV and listened. Another knock. Then a third. He stood up and stepped into the hallway. Nothing. But when he pressed his ear to the warped part of the floor, he heard it. Breathing. Raspy, rhythmic. Like someone exhaling directly beneath him. He jumped back and turned on every light in the house. His cousin laughed it off. "Bro, you just heard pipes or rats or something." So Elijah let it go, Until the next night. He woke up at 3:07 a.m. Not from a sound, but from a smell. Something earthy and rotten. Like wet leaves, meat left in the sun. He walked out to the hallway and found the source. The warped plank in the middle of the floor had lifted slightly. Not broken, not splintered, just lifted as if something underneath was pushing it up. He tapped it with his foot, and it tapped back. Hard. He stepped backward, heart pounding, grabbed a flashlight and crouched down. He pushed gently on the board. It gave way just enough for a sliver of air to hiss out. Elijah couldn't explain what happened next. He says he heard a voice. Not through his ears, through his mind. Like it spoke directly into him. It said, "Let me stretch." That night they both slept with the lights on. Days passed without incident. Then one evening, Elijah came home from work and noticed something had changed. The hallway felt shorter. Like, narrower. He couldn't explain it. But everything felt off. Worse still, he started seeing things. Dark shapes in the corners of his vision. A pale face behind the frosted glass of the shower door. But whenever he'd look directly, gone. His cousin started acting different too. He became withdrawn, quiet. Said he was dreaming of being buried alive. One night, Elijah found him sleeping in the living room with his head under the couch cushions, mumbling in his sleep. "He's in the floor. He's in the floor." That same night, Elijah decided he'd had enough. He grabbed a crowbar from the truck and returned to the warped plank. Whatever was under there, he had to see it. He wedged the tool under the board and pried. The wood groaned, cracked, then lifted. And beneath it, nothing. Just darkness. But as he leaned closer, he saw it. As two sunken yellow eyes staring straight up at him. And then, fingernails scraping toward the edge. Elijah screamed and slammed the board back down. He placed furniture on top. Chairs, a toolbox, anything with weight. His cousin didn't ask why. He just nodded. The next morning they packed everything and left. Later, Elijah looked up the house online. He found a short article from the late 80s, barely more than a paragraph. Man found dead beneath the floorboards, discovered during remodeling. His name was Lawrence Hayes. A tenant. Lived alone. Went missing. Cause of death unknown. But the final sentence stuck with Elijah. Authorities were unable to explain how he became trapped beneath the sealed flooring. To this day, Elijah doesn't sleep without rugs on the floor. Thick ones. And if he hears knocking in the middle of the night, he never answers. Story 5. The Girl in the Garden. Location: Sunnyside, Fresno, California, 2013. Most people think haunted houses look haunted, broken shutters, peeling paint, some fog rolling in on cue. But the real ones? The ones that stay with you forever? They look normal. This story comes from Sophia, who moved into a charming 3-bedroom home in the Sunnyside neighborhood of Fresno with her fiancé in 2013. It was her dream home. Big yard, white fence, and most importantly, a little garden in the back where she could grow vegetables and herbs. But something else had grown there first. Something no one ever told her about. From the very beginning, she said, that backyard made me feel like I wasn't alone. It started small. The garden gate would creak open in the middle of the night. Once or twice. That's the wind. But Sophia swore she latched it every time. Still, she'd wake up, check the window, and the gate would be swinging. She even installed a chain latch, double locked. Yet some mornings she'd find the gate wide open. And her garden, trampled. Like someone had been walking in circles, barefoot, judging by the prints in the dirt. Then came the humming. It was faint, high-pitched, and always at dusk. It came from the garden, an off-tune melody like a music box winding down. She once thought it was a neighbor, until she recorded it and realized it was coming from inside her own yard. Things escalated. One night, Sophia woke up at 2:17 a.m. There was a thud downstairs. Not just any thud, a wet, slapping sound like someone dragging something across the kitchen floor. She woke her fiancé. They both crept downstairs together, holding a flashlight and a golf club. Nothing. The door was still locked. Windows shut. But on the tile floor, muddy footprints. Small, bare, child-sized, trailing from the back door to the sink, then just stopping. No exit prints, no smudges, just gone. Sophia was frozen. Her fiancé kept saying, "It's got to be a prank. Someone got in." But how? The house was alarmed. The sensors never triggered. That night they couldn't sleep. And just before dawn they heard it again, the humming. But now it was inside, in the hallway, right outside their bedroom door. Then came the whisper. "Do you like my garden?" Sophia screamed. Her fiancé flipped the lights on. Nothing. The hallway was empty, but the humming continued for just a few seconds longer, then stopped. They installed cameras the next day, inside and out, motion lights, new locks, everything. For a while it worked, then came the photo. One afternoon, Sophia was sorting through pictures on her phone, garden progress shots mostly. But in one of them, taken a few days earlier, she noticed something in the corner. A small girl, no older than 7, standing just inside the garden fence. Her face was pale, eyes shadowed, mouth opened slightly as if caught mid-whisper. Sophia dropped the phone. She hadn't seen anyone there when she took the picture. She checked the camera logs. Nothing. No movement. That night, she printed the photo and took it to her elderly neighbor across the street, a woman who'd lived there since the 1960s. The moment she saw it, her face fell. She whispered, "That's Emily." "Who?" Sophia asked. "The girl who used to live in your house, back in 1974. Apparently, Emily was the only daughter of the family that lived there decades ago. She had a garden of her own, loved it, tended it daily, until the day she disappeared. No signs of forced entry, no sounds, no leads. Just vanished one afternoon while picking tomatoes. Only her small footprints remained, leading into the soil and stopping at the center of the garden. They never found her. But some neighbors said the garden would keep growing no matter the season. Even in the dead of winter, something would bloom. And sometimes at dusk, you could hear humming. Sophia didn't stay after that. They broke the lease, left half their furniture behind. But before they moved out, Sophia visited the garden one last time. She left a small bundle of flowers tied with a ribbon, whispered a thank you, and turned to go. But just before she reached the door, she heard it, a child's voice, soft as air. "You're the only one who saw me." Sophia froze. Then the garden gate clicked shut, all by itself.